Welcome to Going In Blind. I'm your host, Zach Tidwell, and we will be talking about something a little different this week, something that's very pertinent, with LLMs being at the forefront of everyone's mind today. I think we're starting to shift back towards, okay, this technology is amazing, but what does that mean for humans and the jobs that this is allegedly going to take over, even though I think it's on a much longer time scale than what we currently think it is. Sean Baptiste has spanned kind of every sector of the creative media space, from being a playwright and an actor to an animator and all sorts of things in between. He's worked at some of the biggest companies in the world, like Bethesda, when during the big Fallout and Skyrim hype. He also worked on Guitar Hero and was I think it was like a chaos director or something at Adult Swim. I can't remember what it was called. But just so many fascinating things. And today he is the co-founder and chief creative officer over at DreamKey Syndicate, where they are working to really make sure that digital creators and all animators and things like that are able to leverage AI as opposed to being left behind by it, which is really an angle that we should be taking with all of this technology in all sectors. So had other guests kind of in this space more in the physical realm. Now we're going more digital. So before we get into all of that, just a couple quick announcements as usual. If you have been listening for a while, you already know that there's a very powerful story behind this podcast. If you're new, you don't. So head over to zachtidwell.com and you can read a little bit about it there. Also, please leave a rating and review for the podcast wherever you're listening, or if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. That just helps support us, help us grow, and keep attracting people like Sean to come on the show. And I think that's all that I have for you guys. So, Sean, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is great. I'm excited.
Yeah, after the chaos of trying to navigate the tech issues on my end, and apparently the extreme tornadoes wherever. Where are you at? Where you got an extreme tornado warning?
Well, weirdly, I'm in Maryland, so we're not like that's not like
Oh.
places where they go, yeah, you're gonna get extreme tornadoes. It's we get other stuff, but it's not generally the extreme tornadoes. But they were like level 4 out of 5 warning, and I was like, all right. And then they kept using the word extreme. I was like, should I hop on my skateboard and like what's going on?
That's so great. It's probably they're like, we've got a World War III on the cusp of breaking out right now. We need some way to make this tornado seem a little more imminent and a little escalate it in the news cycle or something. I don't know. I'd like to hear those newscasts than talking about it. Like, or show it to somebody from Oklahoma and listen to them and be like, yeah, whatever, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, because I live actually under the path of a lot of the jets that have been taking off and the cargo planes that have been flying off from all the bases here in Maryland. So I live along that path. So they fly very, very low and they're very, very big and they're very, very loud. So yeah, when they announced the tornado, I'm just like, yeah, whatever, man. I whatever. I don't know what to say.
I think for people listening, I think I think today's March 16th. So this will come out in like the end of May, I think. So some things should be a little different than they are right now. Hopefully in some chaos has died down, but we'll see. But if this seems very like untimely for us to be talking about, that's why it's dated. But um, let's, I guess, it shift more towards you instead of the shit show that is going on all around us right now. But with I don't know, man, like where this is I'm always curious. I feel like with creative people, I guess more so along the lines of the multifaceted part. Like with you, you really, I mean, I said it in the intro, but you kind of have spanned everything. And so I don't understand like how that is possible, like the multi-talented side of creating. Like how where'd that start? Like how does all this happen? How are you here?
Untreated or undiagnosed ADHD really helps.
Okay.
I could honestly say. Not to mention numerous brain surgeries. It really keeps you moving. But yeah, so I started off like my major, I didn't finish college.
Nice.
Harkens back to their ADHD. um, but yeah, my major was theater. I was acting professionally at the time for theater and writing plays and that sort of thing. Crashing wherever, I was doing a traveling show about the Holocaust, and all
Oh,
that. So
that's crazy.
yeah,
Okay.
we were just like going around mainly New England, but other places as well, and just like generally going to various like Jewish centers and then crashing at like the families of Holocaust survivors and
Oh,
stuff,
wow.
who are some of the nicest people and most wonderful and funniest people I've ever met in my life. Like just genuinely, they were so wonderful to us. And then the play that I was in was we played at schools a lot and was about Theresienstadt, the children's concentration camp.
This
So it
is
was
the
pretty
first time I've
heavy.
ever heard of it, to be honest, which is
Yeah.
highly sad that I don't. I should know that, but
It wasn't it's not one of the most famous, like it's not like an Auschwitz or anything like that, but Theresienstadt that's where they sent the children, a lot of the times. And it was very, very dark. But yeah, I was in a play for that for many, many years. And my plan was probably just to stick with theater, stick with acting. Um, I I made up the difference for like whatever small rent I could get I worked in a video store. So that'll date me really good. It's like, oh yeah, you're right there at the end of the video store. So,
those are now
um,
VHS tapes. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
See?
I remember when VHS tapes started moving over to DVDs and it was like, should we, is this okay? Like, are people going to abandon us? Because it's um, so I was there for that and everything. But that sort of career path got kind of derailed for me. Um, because I started having like crushing headaches, just like absolutely crushing, couldn't function headaches and everything. Didn't have health insurance because actor. So believe it or not, they don't just hand out free MRIs
Oh,
at that point. So, but eventually I was able to get a scan and found out I had a brain tumor, which was giving me like, and I still have it. Like I haven't got rid of it. I've had a lot of surgeries, everything, but it's still there. But gave me hydrocephalus, so that explains the headaches and all of that. So, and that was like a few years of recovery and trying to wait to get surgery and stuff like that. So I couldn't write like I couldn't really sit at a screen and like type and like read things because it was too much. And I certainly couldn't go on stage in that condition. It was just too much pain. So, I was playing a lot of video games. And
bigger than a guy from the game industry plays a lot of video games.
yeah, who would have thought?
Yeah.
Because it was like one of the only things I had left. It was one of the only things I could do at that point. So I was playing a lot of video games, and I started to realize I was like, oh, the thing I like about video games is the thing I like about theater, which is that they're both like a movie. They shoot a movie and they direct it, and it's all a point of view, and then they give it to you, and then you sit and you watch it, and that's it. There's no interaction to it. And I love movies, and obviously, but like it's different. Theater is different because when you're on stage, you feel the energy from the audience. The audience is there's like there's like an interaction between the audience and the people on stage in this really sort of beautiful way. And I realized I was like, while I was playing video games, I was like, this is kind of just this is theater kind of like it's dumber a lot of the time, but it's still theater.
Yeah.
So I promised myself I was like, if I get better, like once I get surgery and everything like that, I can get surgery, I can get better. Um, I'm gonna go into games and I'll do whatever it takes and I'll get into games.
Can I
So
pause you here and then we'll come back to this? Because I want to step
really,
through kind of everything that we just talked about already. It's
sorry.
no, you're perfect. This is why I do these. I freaking love these conversations like this where it's like there's so many rabbit holes to go down. You're an interesting dude. So I guess how okay, the first one, is there I mean, it sounds like you're kind of scraping it to get by and even having a second job to support the theater acting. Like, is there a pathway where you can actually make a comfortable living as a theater actor, or is that purely a passion and I'm going to be a starving artist kind of thing?
I think there is. I don't think there's maybe quite as much of it now as there was this was the 90s, and uh, there were still, you could be in traveling shows and stuff. I don't know if it was necessarily a really, really super viable sort of thing, but
Mhm.
it's what I liked, and I was like, we're gonna make it happen. And it's like at that point too, I like didn't have much debt, whatever. And it's like, if I can make $500 a month, I can probably crash on enough couches. I can, whatever. I can get enough food to eat. I'll have a good time. Might not be, a viable lifelong thing, but I can definitely do it. But, there's certainly certain jobs. And as a playwright, I was hoping to just write more scripts and get more work that way too. As I was, as we just, because you can do punch up on other
Yeah.
people's scripts or help with TV or movies, that sort of thing.
Can you, I guess, try and explain what that's like? Because it's such a romanticized thing, and even hearing you talk about it, because you've said it twice, like in that realm, and then even now, like shifting into the video game stuff, where you're like,
Yeah.
this is what I want. I'm going to make it happen. And I admire that about people that, say it and do it, which obviously
Yeah.
you did. So like, but the other side of that is like trying to put myself in those shoes is the feeling of creating something is like so cool. And I've only ever done it independently, but like in those worlds, you're doing it with other people. And I would imagine, as you're getting together and working on scripts on top of everything else, like it is this weird, there's got to be like an electricity in the air. Can you explain maybe how all of that feels from I can't make ends meet, but I'm getting to do the thing that I love?
Yeah, I mean, there's something about it where you're just sort of like, where it's all you think about all day, and just think, just think about like, oh God, if I could just, I want to make this scene work. I just want to, I want to write something. I want people to remember this. I want this to be rad, whatever. Um, yeah, and you like working with your actors and directors and all of that, and it really is a collaborative effort. And what's crazy about it is it's not all love. Like sometimes everybody is really just very, very much sick of one another. Like you can't help it. Like you work in that sort of close proximity on that sort of thing. You just kind of want it. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's the thing. In the same way that you want like food or whatever is like, nah, I want to express myself, and the other parts will take care of itself. I remember like at that time, um, I was paying very little in rent and living in kind of a house that was falling down. And for dinner, generally like 2 meals a day, there was a convenience store with a Dunkin' Donuts in it near my house. So I could just walk over there and I could get 2 hot dogs and all the fixins for 50 cents. So I survived for about a year and a half just on eating hot dogs and then just loading it up with
Oh
onions
my
and pickles
God.
and whatever for the nutrients on top of it. And
And that is such a
like that,
stretch to it.
yeah, just like it was, but it was so like it's funny because that's when I met my wife around that time too, and her just she literally brought up the other day where she was like, we could always just go back to Richdale's hot dogs. Like at the end of the day, you can always go back to the hot dogs. I was like, yeah, it's actually true.
Were you guys were there and you like locked eyes and she's like, I like hot dogs too. And that's just, it was over, or that's how that works, right?
Yeah, that's how we're both dipping the plastic spoon into the tub of onions, minced onions at the same time.
Yeah. Dude, that
Uh,
is, you know, 50 cents for 2 hot dogs, like, those hot dogs were nothing but, like, pig butthole. Like, those were, like, the
yeah,
leftovers of the pig for those hot
yeah.
dogs.
If you were lucky, there was some hoof in there.
Yeah.
Uh, just
Oh my god.
yeah. So, you just at the end of the day, it's just you get to do this thing that you want and kind of express yourself the way you want to. And there's something kind of beautiful and fun about it. To me, it was also less like a choice and more like this sort of thing inside me that's like, you either do this or you're like a shark that stopped swimming. At that point, like there's just like you don't really have a choice. You don't feel like you have a choice. It's like, this is what I'm made for. This is what I'm going to do. And that was actually kind of one of the things that sucked so bad, uh, when I couldn't do it anymore. Like when everything hit, I was just like, oh, well, what? now? Like who who is this person? Like what do I do? How do I express this thing in me?
Oh, and I mean, it's an identity thing, but it's also, and I honestly don't think some people will be able to understand this because they haven't found their passion yet.
Yeah.
And some people don't, but it's more than just replacing the identity because it is that passion where, because you touched on it specifically, it's like, yeah, it was great, but a lot of the time, like it wasn't. But it's that obsessing over it where you wake up thinking about it and you go to bed thinking about it. And you're sometimes like, I'm this way with software development. I make accessible technology now. Like
Yep.
sometimes I never wrote code when I could see, but like I sometimes will dream, and because I had sight, like I'm picturing this in my head of like what the code looks like and stuff that I was stuck on from last night. And it is so, but it is all bang my head against the wall working on something, but it is like I can't get it out of my mind. But then when it clicks, you're like, it's such a weird kind of dichotomy that goes on. And for you to have lost that,
Hmm.
and hey, I'm assuming it's a benign tumor in your brain if it's still in there.
That's what they say. They say like general. This is the fun part. They're always like, yeah, I mean, generally this one never grows. I mean, they can't get it out of my head, and there's no way to treat it, as far as like, like chemo or anything like that. And they're like, yeah, generally it doesn't grow. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we got the sort of the lottery system going on up here.
God.
Best not to think about it. Just don't think about it. Just keep moving forward.
How
So yeah, so but yeah, it feels like in a way it's like, how you obsess over, like, you get like a puzzle and you want to solve that puzzle, you want to fix that puzzle, and all you want to do is that's all you can think of. Like all literally, and it's the same way with writing a play, it's the same with trying to figure out how to make a scene work, how to do anything, how to create something that matters. And then realizing, oh, half the puzzle pieces are suddenly gone, and you're never going to be able to finish that puzzle. You're going to have to like figure something else out. So like it becomes this unsolvable problem in a way, and it's deeply, deeply up. Like it takes time to really wrap your mind around that.
and how old were you?
So this would have been around in my early to mid 20s.
Okay. And so add to all of that, you were already scraping by, you have no medical insurance, and now you just had this come up. So it's like you're just getting kicked in the nuts over and over all at once. It is horrible. But so video games were just this tie-in of like, okay, I see the parallels and I'm gonna do this. And
Yeah. So I started playing these games, Frequency and Amplitude, which were these like music games for the PlayStation, and very beat matching stuff. It was super interesting, kind of like laser stuff, but you're kind of playing along to music tracks. So it was super interesting, and very easy to obsess over. There wasn't even like really a story. It was just kind of like this neat thing. Um, so yeah, I was playing that, and I was like, looked and saw the credits, and I saw that they were based out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I was like, yeah, that's like 45 minutes from my that's like 45 minutes from my house. And I was like, if I get through this, everything like that, if I can, get better and everything, I am going to apply there, and I'm going to get a job there. And I don't care what it takes. I'm going to make it. I'll just make it happen. Like we'll figure it out. We'll build the ship while we're already in the water. So I did get the surgeries, and everything. I got a shunt put in. So that took care of the hydrocephalus and made the headache slightly less common. And I was like, okay, time to time to do the thing.
so that's all that's, fluid on the brain and that's creating pressure. So the shunt is just evacuating some of that out of your skull.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of problems with it and had it replaced multiple times. I've had so many surgeries on my brain. I'm like a linebacker, like a running back who's been playing for a really long time. So just as far as the number of probably TBIs I've had, at this point. Um, but at that time, I thought I was like, oh, I'll be good. I'll be good for a while. Like it'll be fine. So I just started applying to Harmonix. And this is before Guitar Hero. They had worked on Amplitude and Frequency, and At that time, they were working on a game called Karaoke Revolution, which was literally a singing game.
I remember that. Yeah. So this is like mid 2000s.
Yeah, this is like this would have been 2003, 2004.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started applying, and they're one of the heads of the company, Mike Dornbrook, responded just to my applications and was like, yeah, I'm sorry, this is probably not going to happen. We're not really looking for that. And I was like, oh, yep, okay, cool. You'll hear from me again. Don't worry, you'll be hearing from me. So I just kept applying, for about a couple of months. I mean, apply every like 2 weeks, something like that, for a couple of months, until eventually they actually did need somebody. And I found out because of a friend of uh, another friend who is now my wife, who had gotten a job as QA there, and was like, yeah, I know we need like another spot for QA. I could put in a good word for you. So they ended up hiring me, and I ended up driving into 45 minutes each way into Boston when there's no traffic. So an hour and a half each way to Boston now, um, to go sing into a microphone 8 to 12 hours a day and see if I could break it.
Oh my God.
Now the same like 5 songs over and over and over again too. And one of them was like, um, oh God, what was the name of that band? They had like a ridiculous name. It doesn't matter, but like some of the songs were great, some of them were not so great, and just did that over and over and over again. And then I was like, this is great. I'm holding on with both hands. I am not going to let them let go of me. I mean, they let go of me about a month later because the project was over. So I immediately went somewhere else, and then the second they would have me back, I came back.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was there for years before, I had to leave again because of my brain.
It's funny that you say you're like a linebacker or a running back. I had for a dude who was on, I think it was the 49ers. It was like, I think in the first 20 episodes, it's been a long time, but George Visker came on here and was a Super Bowl champ, and his career was ended by brain trauma. He has a shunt in his skull like you did, and he was just had an insane amount of seizures, and the same thing. He's had this shunt replaced multiple times to alleviate pressure. Like you literally, sounds like the same thing. It like, and
Yeah,
it's
it probably is. It's yeah,
wow.
they just sort of they just open up. Basically, they just, and I have them on both sides because I've had it replaced so many times, but they basically just knock you out, crack open your skull, drill a hole in there, shove a tube down, and they split in between the left and right side of your brain, right down the middle, and they go into the sac that's in the middle of your brain, and basically just insert a straw down there, and then on the outside, underneath your scalp, they put it's basically, it feels like an egg, but it's a barometric pressure pump, basically. So it runs off of barometric pressure. And then they run a tube down your neck, and then down, and then through my abdomen, through my abdominal wall. So it just dumps out all of the extra cerebral spinal fluid in my abdomen. So,
I'm pretty positive that is the same thing. I don't remember hearing about the barometric pressure egg thing, but like if straining into his abdomen like that, I remember that is so, dude, you're a former Super Bowl champ.
yeah,
Basic.
I could say, I'm from New England originally, so I kind of feel like I'm a Super Bowl.
That is just wild.
Yeah.
It, but I mean, you're so clear and with it, and it hasn't affected your brain, your function at all.
It did. So I worked on Guitar Hero, I worked on Rock Band, and it was right after Beatles. I had worked in development. I'd worked as a tech artist, QA, moved into tech art, was terrible at tech art. I'm man enough to admit it. So they moved me over to community management. So I ended up running the entire community team for Rock Band when we got bought by MTV. Um, and so I ran that for years, was just on the road like 250, 300 days out of the year.
Oh my gosh.
Traveling.
Just like promoting it.
Yeah, promoting it, going and hanging out with bands and stuff like that. Going, honey is going, like, I got to go do really, really cool stuff. And I was always almost way too exhausted to really like fully enjoy any of it in a way,
Wow.
if that makes sense.
I mean,
It was great. Yeah.
those games were huge though. Like I remember when we got I don't know, I think it was Guitar Hero 3 was my family got. We were, I was in elementary school and we got it. And
Mhm.
like we all nerded out over that thing. Like my parents hate video games, but like they were even into it. I had no idea it was, I mean, I knew it was massive, but not to the point where you're hanging out with like Def Leppard and leather pants. That's
Well, it's
wow.
true. Like, yeah, we were hanging out with her. Like, we did the Beatles rock band, so we'd be like doing events with like, like Danny Harrison, George Harrison's son, and like I had to go on stage and sing in front of like 3 or 4 thousand GameStop managers in Las Vegas with Danny Harrison behind me on guitar, and we did the Conan O'Brien and like a crazy stuff like that, where it's bananas because at the end of the day you're like, so I'm kind of a middle manager in a way, and I just I'm kind of just doing this thing, but this is the other part of my job, and it's weird because lots of people in game who play video games know who I am, and just for like just it was bizarre, but great, but it was a lot. It was a very intense but very rewarding time, um, until the shunt stopped working.
Was the intensity, did that play a part in the shunt not working? Did
I
it
don't think
think?
so.
Okay.
I think it was just more shit luck, if I'm perfectly honest.
God just hates you.
Just
Yeah.
yeah, just mechanical failure. Um, so this would have been around late 2009, early 2010. So over about 6 months, I had about a dozen surgeries on my brain. Um, for just various types of shunt failure, just one after another, kept failing, kept failing, kept failing. The worst one, um, well, there were two really bad ones. One, I ended up in a coma and may have died for a little while,
Ooh.
depending. So that was pretty bad. And then one time I went to go get tested at my neurosurgeon because he just wanted to do it. So they just put a little tap into the barometric pressure pump, and they pulled out a little fluid, and they got back the results, and they're like, we need to do surgery like immediately. I was like, what? And they're like, your fluid tested for P. acnes. And I was like, I don't know what that is. Talk to me like I work in video games and not in medicine. Because turns out, um, and P. acnes it's the same like bacteria that can cause acne, which is literally what they call it. So I was like, so what you're trying to tell me is I could get like brain zits? Like what are you trying to tell me? And they're like, well, I think when we put in the shunt last time, there must have been some sort of contamination somewhere along the line. Um, but that's bad. So we need to clear that out. So I had to go in. That was during the 2010 Winter Olympics, and I was in an ICU for like 2 weeks and they had to clean everything out. So basically I had no shunt in my head. There was just a tube in my head running out like something out of a Cronenberg movie, like a David Cronenberg movie. Just like lying there, just watching curling, high on, whatever they were giving me.
What, dude?
Just watching curling while I tried to get better. But by the end of that 6 months, I didn't know who I was. Everything was confusing. Than just the sheer amount of trauma on my brain. Um, I had to relearn everything.
Is some of that pressure or some of that just repetitive, there is a cost every time that we go into your skull. Have
Mhm.
they explained that to you?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, the intense pressure from when the hydrocephalus would build up certainly didn't help. But also, yeah, just constantly drilling open my head and then shoving new tubes down there and all of that wasn't really helping.
Gosh.
So yeah, I had to go to cognitive therapy. My wife fought really, really hard for me to get like cognitive therapy and do stuff. But like, I lived in Boston, and just getting from my house to the doctor was the first time I did it by myself. I had like a notebook, like kind of like attached to me with all of the instructions on how to do things step by step, just so I could like manage to pull it off. So yeah, there was like a long process of getting back to feeling like myself.
Well, I mean, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
this is, I have experience with this. I've also had,
I was gonna
uh,
say.
I've had third party experience with it too. One of the guys in my platoon when I was in the Marines got sucker punched in San Diego.
Oof.
Big dude. So he's the guy from my platoon was about 6'3". So he got sucker punched, passed out, like immediate knockout, and fell, 6 feet ish down to a parking block and hit his
Oh
head off
shit.
of that. And so he was in the hospital. I mean, like for, I think he might have been in the hospital. Actually, I don't know. I was going to say it might have been longer than I was in the hospital from shooting myself. And I don't think that's the case. But like when he was out, it's my timeline's kind of messed up from when I was in the hospital. But like seeing
Yeah.
him, he was in the hospital kind of like you literally with like this, like it looked like a rod like sticking out of his skull where they were alleviating pressure and stuff. But like I got to see him kind of rebuild and it was a lot.
Yeah.
It's and obviously I know what my experience was, except I was so I think out of it for a lot of it, plus just overwhelmed schedule wise with the fact that all day, every day was nothing but back to back to back to back appointments. And so like
Yep.
for you, what was and then that's the other side of this is every brain injury is different. So like
Yeah, that's the worst part. Yeah.
relearning and me relearning and you relearning is probably all very different. So like, yeah, talk us through it.
I mean, it was very lonely in a lot of ways because that's the other thing. It's like, every brain injury, traumatic brain injury, all of that coming back, it's very, very different from person to person. It's very, very different from injury to injury. Um, a lot of times in this country, we're very focused on being like, okay, get it better, fix it, but like not like, hey, there's also like a real emotional cost to this, and they're probably going to need someone to talk to who maybe understands what it's like on that side. So it did feel very, very lonely, and especially, and then when they said like they're like, terrifying when they're like, this was the part that scared me. They're like, oftentimes with traumatic brain injuries, we won't know how much you've recovered or how much it'll be possible for you to recover for 2 full years. And I'm like, like you can't conceive of 2 full years when you can't even conceive of who you are, and all of that. And it was truly, and just the number of times I thought I was okay, and then a couple of weeks later, the shunt would fail again, and I'd be back in the thing. And so there's this also like constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop again and again. And it's happened so many times that you just don't know. Um, you just don't know when it's going to happen. And it starts to feel like, why bother? Like, why bother,
Ugh.
focusing on this? Why focus on the therapy and all of that when, something can come and just wipe the slate clean again?
Yeah, and that specifically is like, well, fuck, this is just gonna happen again.
Yeah.
And I've been thankful for the fact, and I think it's probably helped me a lot, just like to be frank, that I did all of this to myself as opposed to this wasn't bad luck. Um, I got diagnosed with Huntington's disease a couple years into being blind, which is like a
Oh, okay.
disgusting genetic disease. But like
Yeah.
that one's
Yeah.
bad luck. But everything else, like the blindness and all that stuff, like I did this to myself. So there's no one to be angry at. Whereas like with you, did you struggle with that at all?
Um, a little of it. I think there's part of me that I don't know if it was being raised Catholic, maybe that where you're like, no, 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 no matter what, this is your fault.
Oh.
Like, don't worry, it's all gonna come around, because of something. Who knows? Um, yeah, I don't know if that was if it was comfort, it was cold comfort, in some sort of way. Uh, yeah, it was more the hard part was I felt for me for because my wife and I we weren't married yet. We didn't get married till basically once I kind of like kind of finished my recovery process as best as I could. I still wasn't great, but as much as I, when they dropped me from insurance, from disability insurance, and I was like, okay, I guess I have to go back to work.
Got that bad.
Yeah.
Wow. So what happened there?
Oh, I made the mistake um of because I was going to therapy and everything like that. Both cognitive and, just emotional, mental therapy as well. And my therapist, who's a lovely person, um loved talking to and everything, but I was like, "You know what? I'm having a good day today. I'm feeling pretty good today." And just that from his notes was enough for the, disability insurance people to be like, "He said he's fine, so it's good." And I tried to fight it back on
Uh,
it. They were just like, no."
that is so gross.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, I won't be using that company ever again or help them out in any way. But, yeah, so I kinda had to, like, get back into it, but for me, a lot of it was I felt bad about letting down the people around me by whatever, like, not getting better fast enough or feeling like I wasn't doing anything, like, so, you know, my wife and, my mom and dad and brother and, family and stuff like that, and then also just, my dogs, we had 2 dogs. One of them's still alive, she's, actually behind me over here on the couch, um, but she's 16 now,
Oh
but,
my gosh. Okay.
yeah, yeah, so, yeah, just taking care of them and stuff like that, and just feeling like I'm kind of failing. Because anytime you have a step back, you're like, "Well, this is just what it's like." It's just that sort of, like, fatalistic attitude. Um,
Yeah, how would you not?
yeah, it's hard to get perspective that far into it, I feel like. Sometimes it could just be really, really hard. I don't know how for you, is that, like, just in that process of the, coming back therapy like that, like, what was your experience like? Was that, like, as far
Well,
as like, day by day, the thing that would pull you through?
I really wanted my independence back. I think that was the
Mm,
biggest driver.
yeah,
I ended up back on my own and like doing things like well before I should have been just because I wanted my independence back. And it served me well.
mhm.
But like it was, I, I'm also lucky, like I didn't get really hurt or something doing it. So, it's now I could say, yeah, it worked out. But um, yeah, I think it was, my parents were feeding me. My parents were wiping my ass. I couldn't remember how to pee. I
Yeah.
didn't know where I was. Like I just none of it. And I had like you had to relearn how to do all of it. So I think,
Mhm.
that was about 9 months after I got out of the Marines. So I had a little bit of an ego being an infantry Marine coming out of that too. Now mom and dad are with me in the hospital every day. It's taking care of me like I'm a child again. It just a lot of it was, yeah, it was I think just honing on, okay, what's the next step forward? And
Mhm.
I don't know. It's you make the choice though, like you did. Like I was begging doctors while I was in the hospital with a bullet hole in my forehead still to let me work out. And I got them to let me do it eventually. It was like grandma workouts, but they were letting me do stuff because I had wasted away while I was in the hospital. And I just, then it was okay, what do I need to do to get back into college? What do I need to do to snowboard again? What do I need to do to get back out on my own? And then just I think it's just like you, man. I mean, you could still be on the teat of everyone around you and you're not. It's
Yeah.
yes, I'm obviously everyone's fortunate we had the care that was there, right? I had a ton of
Yeah.
support and I'm sure it sounds like you did too. And that
Yeah.
the feeling like a burden is a very real thing. But
It's hard. That is this day still the thing that I'm most scared of, I would say, um,
yeah,
is feeling like that. Because just that feeling is so profound and intense, and it becomes all encompassing, and it's a thing that, like, when you wake up at, like, 2 o'clock in the morning, you're like, "Oh, Jesus. Oh, no. Oh, God. That's yep, yep. Oh, I'm gonna have to wake up and face that tomorrow." And
yeah.
yeah.
I think it's one of those things though. I don't know why I'm having to clear my throat so much, but with and I'd be curious to hear your insight on this is like, I think that's one of those things. Like, I'm guessing with how you pushed yourself in these different realms, you're probably a bit of a perfectionist with things that you throw yourself into. Is that accurate?
Sometimes, and then other times I'm just so like, just sort of like take chaos and then just sort of like find enough form in it to like enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I can be sort of adaptive, but yeah, there's certain things I'm unusually stubborn and about, and that is always the source of my probably my misery, I would say.
Uh, but it's weird because like that same thing is also kind of a superpower. Like and
Yeah.
I think that comes back to, with the digging out of that
Hmm.
burden hole, because yes, you may not be being viewed as a burden by the people that love you, but like you are a responsibility at the very of however we want to frame that. There is something there. And I don't,
Yeah.
I thought about this a lot because I've met people who have chosen to let themselves reside in that space when they end up
Yeah.
there. Um, and even people who like will seemingly, maybe need a little more than they really need, or like lean into it, I guess would be the right term. But like the getting out of that, I think some of that and that is because I'm sure people who end up there, some of that might be they just hit the point where they were defeated. Obviously, I didn't have
Mhm.
multiple, kept getting kicked down like you did, but like had you gotten stuck there, I think you being able to get out of that was probably some of, it is. Yeah, this is haunting me, but I did these, this is what I need to do today at 2 in the morning, but also yesterday, like I kicked ass in all the ways that I could yesterday, going
Yeah.
through the
Yeah.
checklist.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and I also tried to like wherever I could kind of take the almost that addict mentality, coming out of addiction sort of mentality, where it's like, yeah, you know what? If I'm walking from my house to the post office, I remember somebody saying this, through recovery and stuff, saying like if I leave my house and I'm walking to the post office and I fall down, that doesn't mean I have to go all the way back to my house and start over. I just pick myself up, dust off, and keep going. And it was like, if you like, for somebody who was an alcoholic or something, it's like, just because you had a day, you ended up drinking again, whatever, that doesn't set you all the way back. Like, you pick yourself up and you keep going. And you just gotta like, you've gotta take that mentality and not make it just like a saying. You have to like, just really swallow it and make it who you are. I also had to accept there's going to be some days where you are way too depressed, way too like just lost in yourself, and you're not going to be able to do anything. And if you need to take that day and just lay there, you got to not feel bad about that. You got to try again the next day, but you sometimes that's the thing you got to do and be okay with that.
I'm curious with that. I obviously, as you can imagine, shot myself in the face. So I deal with depression and
Yeah, right, right,
still
right.
do it comes up. Like
Of course. Just sit here.
I I take I guess a different approach with it. And so I'm curious,
Mm,
like with you, I guess I know, okay, I need to, even though I hate every second of it, like I need to still do the core things of my, like I
mhm,
need to make myself, I will work out today, I will eat good today, and I will, go to jujitsu or
mhm,
keep working on the, like I have to keep, for me, I feel like the lingering time
mhm.
is worse for me. And that's not to say I do intentionally, and I learned this through therapy over the years. I do set aside time to sit in the misery because you need to let yourself feel that. I think stuffing
Right,
that down is part of what got me to shooting myself. But
right.
uh, you know, outside, okay, I've set my time aside to let myself feel it. Now I need to get up and do the thing. Do you end up in you don't, I guess, end up in a cycle there, like you said, I guess you let yourself have that day where you don't, and it's just
Yeah.
being mindful of not doing it the next day or not letting that haunt you the next day.
Yeah, because my brain, for some reason, like I'm assuming this is the thing that has, in many ways, has saved me. That, and also my wife would just not let me do that. Nor would my dogs. My dogs already did. They'll allow 24 hours of not doing stuff. They're fine with anything more than that, and I'm really pushing it at that point. But um, they'll keep me honest as far as that goes. I have 3 of them now, um, so there's that, and my wife, of course. But then there's also this thing in my head where it's just like, and I think it goes back to, when I was doing theater, when I was working in games, even now, where it's like, no, no, you have to create something or else you have stopped swimming. Like it doesn't matter. Like you just have to do it. Like if you don't do it, you have to do it. Uh, and then at that point, I can get into that sort of mentality of just cut the log that's in front of you. That's the saying I use all the time, is just cut the log in front of you. Stop worrying about the other crap. Just find the one thing that's in front of you, cut that. And once that's cut, move on to the next log. You can cut that log. But don't think about 10 logs down the road. Don't get yourself all messed up. Don't get all up in your head about it. Just cut a log in front of you. And if someday there's one day where it's like all I can do is cut one log in front of me, and that cut one log is that I got my dogs out enough times and nobody pooped inside. Uh, you know,
including you.
including me, everybody ate. Like, good, we did it. You know what? I'll take that as a success. I'll stack the small wins. Um,
I've never heard that before. Did you come up with that?
which one?
The one log at a time thing?
No, I can't remember who said it the first time to me, but I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. I love that. Like,
It
I
does.
love that.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, stop thinking about the forest behind or all the other logs that you have to cut. Just focused on the one in front of you and you'll be fine. Like, it's a great way of not getting overwhelmed, I think, by stuff you have no control over.
Yeah. And I just, all this stuff I think is so valuable for people to hear because it's, again, there's no one way that fixes things for people, or even I'm sure the way that you have learned to mitigate or counterbalance the side effects of your brain injuries is different than the way that I do throughout my day. And it's just, I think it's important for, someone's listening that will hear that and be like, okay, I've heard Zach run his mouth about how he does dumb shit. Like that this is better for me. So it just, I'm always curious. And I think it's very important for people to hear.
Yeah, you gotta just find that sort of like process in your head that kind of keeps you going, that keeps you sane. And part of that is about being radically honest with yourself too. Cause like sometimes you'd be like, well, if I just lay here for 2 weeks, I feel a lot better. It's like, do you though? Like, do you? And for me, it's just like, if I lay here for 24 hours, I'll feel fine. If I lay here for 48 hours, I am going to be an emotional wreck. Like I need to do something. I need to go downstairs, work on Photoshop, or like, you know, build something, write something, do something, create something, or else I will go insane.
It's interesting. But again, yeah, you found your balance with it. And
Yeah.
but you, I'm guessing you kind of lost the capacity to do a lot of that creative stuff and that had to be relearned.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So a lot of that was gone. As part of my cognitive therapy, there's a friend of mine, Trevor Chamberlain, who's a filmmaker, and he and I used to make all sorts of short movies and everything, back in the 90s and early aughts and everything like that, and remained friends, to this day. But he and I were talking when I was recovering, and I was just like, and I was like, I've been thinking about, I want to kind of like do some recovery stuff and like stuff that they haven't suggested. Like I'll bring it up to my cognitive therapist, but I want to try some different stuff. And it was a lot of things like my wife, like challenges my wife had given me. And one of the things we settled on was, what if we took a list of things that I wanted to do when I grew up, like when I was a little kid, and be like, let's go through that list and then just learn it, like figure out how to do it and then just learn it. And just like obviously it's like, you know, one of them was obviously like astronaut because every kid wants to be an astronaut. I wasn't going to go to space camp. They weren't inviting me at that point, but, like find a few things on there that we could do. So, one of the things I always wanted to be, and always do, was stand-up comedy. Um, I love stand-up comedy ever since I was a kid, just listening to like Richard Pryor records and everything like that. And that's how I learned how to swear. It's really good stuff.
Really?
But yeah, I just went like I loved that stuff. And so Trevor was like, well, if you want, I'll like film it. We'll film the process. We'll make like and we can sell it as a series or something like that. So we turned even that therapy and trying to turn into something creative. So I did. I took classes at the Boston Improv or Improv Boston, learned how to do stand up, performed, and had a film crew with me everywhere I went.
Jeez.
And they edited it and it ended up airing at I believe it was Penny Arcade Expo 2012 in Boston. We had a big, huge showing of it with a few hundred people as a premiere. It was really, really fun. Never got picked up. Should have. It was great. But Paul and Storm did the theme song. It was very fun. But yeah, we just kind of even trying to turn therapy into something that's sort of like a creative process, because that's kind of in a way the only thing I really understand. That's the way I understand how to perceive the world, I feel like.
Hmm. And is that part of why, because you've had to fight so hard to get back? I guess even, early professionally, you had to fight so hard to get into it, but then have had to double down and fight so hard to get back to it that
Yeah.
I mean, that was almost a too like cliche question. But because I even think about this with LLMs of, they say that one day it's going to get rid of programmers. I don't, it is so far down the road for that. It's so overhyped. And I think these companies do that to boost their stocks, which, yep, I get it. They're burning cash. But one day that might go away. And so this is my big creative outlet now. Like I've had that thought, like you've had to fight. I guess that's an uncomfortable thought thing for me to sit with, because I derive like so much value from it. And it's the same kind of imminent threat, or at least supposedly. And it seemed, from what I've heard, obviously I can't see the output of these things, but I've heard it's incredible on the visual side. And, of that being so far away, is that why this has become such a hyper focused issue for you to then start a company and create this new venture that you guys are on with DreamKey?
Yeah, so I partnered up with Will Brierley, who was the creator of Soda Drinker Pro, which is this great video game that is totally ridiculous, where you just drink sodas on various locations. And all of the art was done in like Microsoft Paint. And but then there's hidden inside of the game is a whole other game. It's truly, if anybody gets a chance, they should pick it up and play it. It's as indie gets, in the best possible ways. And I have endless respect for him as a creator and just a genius. So he'd been working on this software for a couple of years. He had done a off-Broadway show where like this sort of AI character would interview celebrities at this comedy club. And then he had done with Mikhail Baryshnikov. He had done I think it was the Cherry Orchard during COVID. And we'd known each other for a while. We did some stuff at Adult Swim together as well, and I've just known him for a long time. And he had been talking about how he wanted to bring his software a little bit further, and his software didn't work like anybody else's software. And it's not like an LLM. LLMs, the large language models, what we think is it's so funny is that they're so stupid. Because they have to know everything, which means they know nothing. There's not that focus.
It's overgeneralized.
Yeah. So what you get is always going to be the most like marginal vanilla sort of output. And as far as creative stuff, yeah, it's just not creative. And as far as like the video and image output, to my eye, yeah, some of it's very, very, very impressive. I think it's truly impressive technology. But the problem is when you look at it, it looks really, really cool. A new model will come out and people will look at it and they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then a couple of days later, no one ever talks about it, because no matter what you put into it, it all looks exactly the same. Like it has the same film quality and the same sheen, and everything is lit the same way. And it's not creative. Yeah, I mean, it can be, but not in the way that a human is. So we have been talking, along with, we had a couple other partners, or have a couple other partners. Keith Gard, he used to manage Aerosmith back in the 90s.
What?
Yeah, he's just an absolute legend, and just one of the coolest, most empathetic and emotionally intelligent people I've ever met in my life. And just brilliant at what he does. And Kevin Pereira started off with us. He's now a consulting founder. He was the host of Attack of the Show on G4 back in the
Those are
aughts.
all like big figures in different
Yeah.
realms of media.
Yeah, and then we have Aaron Blayart, who hosts, who came up with, he's been with Conan O'Brien for since like 2000. So he's been around for with Conan for like 20 plus years. He's the one who came up with Clueless Gamer and co-hosts it with Conan as well. So, and we've come from all different sort of backgrounds of media. Yeah, like video games, animation, television, movies, music. And all of our friends, a lot of these companies, it's all tech people trying to like come up with something to be creative without having that background of what actually makes something creative, or what creativity can really look like in that sort of way, in an artistic sort of way. Which is not to say anybody can be artistic, anybody can kind of learn that. But if what you're just doing is like, I want thing that looks like movie, that's not really artistic. That's just thing that looks like movie.
Well, and it's interesting because when you come from the tech side, right? Like
Right.
it makes sense. It is creative, but it is in a totally different avenue. And the way
Right.
that like beautiful software is in the way it's architected and in the way it's able to abstract things to be generalized so you can modularly plug it into places. So it makes sense. Like, yeah, they're trying to make something that isn't basically create two different creative paradigms derived from one that is in almost like direct opposition to how art works.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because it's what I say, because I straddled both of these worlds for so long. Is I'm like, if you use an LLM to make code, it is going to be pretty awful unless you're a coder. Because if you don't know what you're looking at when it spits it out, and keep in mind, a lot of times the LLMs, the code that they spit out, it creates the cardinal sin that I hated as a QA engineer, which is it doesn't comment its code. And sorry, I didn't mean to get irrationally angry
No.
there, but comment your code. Comment your check-ins, man.
It is really for people listening. Like the code is not, yeah, it is. Sometimes it can do stuff, but it's very basic level stuff. And it's not something, it's funny because I have people that know me now who are like, oh, coding. So I was able to do this in ChatGPT. And I'm like, yeah, but maybe you got it to write a couple functions that hook together. Did you actually did you make an app with it, or even a screen, like have it manage the state on a screen? You're like, well, what do you mean by state? And I'm like, yeah, like it's not there, people. It's just, and it's,
Wait till your memory overruns. Like you're gonna have leaks all over the place. And then the one that gets it is like, oh yeah, I made an app for I can put it on my iPhone. And it's like, yeah, you can put it on your iPhone right this second. But as soon as they update, you're gonna have no idea why your app no longer works. And you're just basically gonna have to recreate it from scratch. Like you can't update it because you don't know what's in there.
and it doesn't either because people don't understand this technology. But every time
Exactly.
when you're having a conversation with any of these LLMs and you enter another message, it literally has to reprocess everything in the conversation, which is
Mhm.
why they start to get to that area where it has run out of memory. They have their context windows. And so it's an incredible technology. And but we are on we're on V1, like the entire, the transformer architecture is not going to be the answer. Like it's going to have to be entirely rethought at some point. And
Yeah.
it's interesting. So when he came to you guys, because you mentioned he already had some software
Yeah, he
It's
had already been working on his own thing that even when he was like doing it on, off Broadway shows and stuff, like we'll say this story all the time is that like actual like LLM engineers and AI engineers were kept coming to him after the show and being like, "What are you doing, man? How did you make that work? Like, how does that work?" And he'd go through a little bit of it and they were like, "I don't understand. Like, what a weird approach to like how you're doing this." Because it wasn't their approach at all. Everything is a lot more focused and has a much more specific artistic bent to it.
is it
So
more
yeah.
local? Well, I guess at this stage, as you guys are growing to a company, you probably at least at least using a hyperscaler for some of your remote infrastructure. But like at this stage, was it all more local machine learning kind of stuff that he had
It
built?
was it was very, very local. It was very, very local. And it was you know, brilliant and could do these crazy things, but using sort of video game techniques and all sorts of stuff to make
Yeah.
it do things that, LLMs can't really do and still can't really do. So, but the thing is, for any of that to work, we kept saying like no matter if you like if you have an LLM try to tell you a joke, it's not going to be funny. If it is funny, it's because it's somebody else's joke that it stole and is just telling you. It can't like come up with something because it doesn't understand that. People make things funny. Artistic choices need to be people. So our software, what it does is, there's a human involved at every part of it, and we use the like technology from AI and stuff like that as a way to speed up the parts of the process that are very repetitive and can take a long time and then stitch everything together in a meaningful way. But there's still like, so we have a show on YouTube called Angry Shaman, and I write every episode of that show. Like I sit and I write the whole episode of the show, including like, how it's animated and everything like that. And then it does go to voice clones, but we know all the people who do the voices. And they get credited for it. And, if we make money, they make money. Our artists who produced all of the character models, we might use a little bit of AI to help with some of the animations sets that we go into there, but we're not animating everything like everything from scratch every time we, do the show. Coming from Adult Swim and everything, we go more to the Hanna-Barbera method, which is make huge amounts libraries of animations that you can call at any time and then use interesting ways. And the artists get compensated and everybody is credit. We built an entire tracker on the back end that every time something is produced, it knows everybody who participated in the creation of it and can track it across everywhere it's broadcast, what the audience is, and who is owed what for royalties. Um, LLMs and AI, they're a black box. You can't see inside of them. Like it's you say something and then it goes into the box and then something comes out the other side and you very rarely had any real idea about what happened inside of that box. So we built tools and systems and everything as part of our system that can completely create the show for us in very quick amount of time, but has people involved the whole way and everybody can get royalties and the output is funnier and it's more interesting that way and looks like something. It has an aesthetic point of view and everything is tracked and transparent in a way that even Hollywood has never been transparent. So we feel like there's a lot of room there. Like, if anything, this gives more people a chance to have a job doing this.
Well, and I mean, I guess I I feel kind of foolish. I assumed you guys had basically created a channeling a channeling wrapper around LLMs and we're just calling these services. This is so much bigger than I had thought.
Mhm.
And even just so smart, right? The tracker where it's inextricably linked into the system. So there's no way for fuckery. Everyone's getting their
Right.
dues. And this is almost, it's not the blockchain, but it is everyone because blockchain is another buzzword. People say, "Oh, we need to put this stuff on the blockchain," and like no, it doesn't. You can have a database like this that is hooking all of this stuff together, and where it isn't
But if you
integral
wanted to,
part.
we could absolutely hook it up to a blockchain and have it, if that would provide more transparency or protect the system more, we could absolutely do that and would, because like,
But it's unnecessary. Like, I mean,
yeah,
I guess, you could say if you're the creators, you could be like, hey, this company seems to be, I feel like I'm not getting my due. I can see that argument to where maybe
yep.
one day it's the blockchain, but that's another highly inefficient, like very, very energy intensive thing that people don't realize.
Well, that's the other thing. We also have like ethically, we're just like, we don't want to be just generating tons and tons of crap on the fly. Like, we generate things once and build these libraries that we can reuse everything. And then we're not sending this out to like one person. We can make live, uh, interactive animated shows if we want to. Right now, we're doing a lot of VOD, but we can do interactive animated shows with a whole group of people watching it. And it's not using any more electricity or power or resources than, somebody just on a Twitch stream playing a video game. Like it's exactly the same in so many ways.
and it's not stuck on that. Again, another one of the assumptions I had was like, because I had read that you guys are doing some of this interactive stuff, and maybe you can explain what that is for people at home. But in my assumption was that you guys again had this incredibly inefficient transformer architecture underpinning all of these things, so that 20 minutes into the stream, it's having to process the last 20 minutes of things that happen, and it's just, I mean, this is a different paradigm, and it's so God, yeah, I'm so yeah, I'm kind of speechless right now. It's so cool.
I mean, we're coming at it from a completely different direction. That it's weird because we've approached it. I am old English. We've approached everything from a real ethical point of view, and that's been our whole point the entire time. And what's cool about that is it led to all of these very interesting ways of solving the problem that isn't the sort of brute force way that a lot of the big companies are doing. And, in the end, I really feel like even though it's more work to make a show, we're not pumping out 8 seconds at a time. I can run the show and we can just watch it live on a loop for days and days and days where every episode is a little bit different, and not be using any crazy amounts of electricity or anything like that.
And everyone's getting their dues too.
And everybody's getting paid, and yeah.
We're not dehumanizing everything to where like that is something that needs to be considered in this race. If it does get to the point where we can replace humans, we should not replace humans. Right. Like
Correct.
that is as a combined organism that we are, like we should not be eradicating or, removing our own relevance and things.
Yeah.
And so this is such an important example to be setting. And I hope there's other companies that are doing this in parallel areas or,
I
entirely
hope so
different
too.
areas. But
Yeah, we're trying to find more companies that do ethical AI to like where we can, work with them and stuff like that. There's one company that I really, really like called EthoVox. And they uh founded by voice actors, and it's kind of like, voice replication and cloning, but again, where it's voice actors, they can opt into projects or not, get paid for them on an ongoing basis, and um really, really incredible tech. And just very, very good people who are trying to protect an industry that for some reason some very rich people have decided to destroy. So
I mean, it's the money grab. And,
yeah.
it's easy for me to say I'm not some rich dude in charge of a huge tech company. So like I kind of easy for me to sit here and bitch about it. So I'm trying to avoid doing that. But like it is, I on the other end of this, because I think I could sit here and tell you 100 different ways like how important this is. And again,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of blown away by how much more thoughtful it is than I assumed it was. And also, I think at my own, probably like a little flippant interpretation of, I read ethical AI. I read, all these things, and I assumed these were I I didn't give them as much consideration as was due, obviously. So I
Oh,
I feel a little guilty about that. But
no, dude, there's no corollary, right? Like what we know is like these LLMs and like the big models and the VO3s and the Soras and Claude code and all of these things. And that's what we know because that's kind of like what's pumped out. And in a lot of ways, that's what all of the stories are about. It's even, but like this is our approach is so much different that actually that has been an issue sometimes is trying to get any sort of people to really write about it because it's so different from what they know that either they kind of hate it right away because they're like so against all AI stuff, or just it's so far different from everything that they know that it's like it takes a really long time to understand it. So our job is to keep trying to find ways to make it more digestible and easy to understand, like our approach.
yeah, I think part of that barrier is probably again the lack of at least fundamental graspings of the other technologies, the more mainstream stuff. Like
Yeah.
again, people don't realize. I think a lot of people don't even realize that social media algorithms put you into your own echo chamber. Like,
Oh, without a doubt.
and not to
Without a doubt.
mention, that these LLMs are not, they will lie to you, that they are not efficient, that they are, all these things are happening. And so then it's hard to have this discussion as to why this is so important when at least that basal stuff is not there.
Yeah.
So, but coming back through some of this, on the other end, I am curious, like you kind of, you touched on the fact that everyone is still hooked in, everyone is still getting paid, but as as an animator and a writer, like how has this changed your process? How has it sped up the process? How, and just in all forms, like can you talk through that? Like you crank out an episode of this thing by yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of
It's
times
just
there's
crazy.
well, because I edit it too in Premiere, and I mean, I do a lot of stuff, like extra stuff in Premiere sometimes just to make a joke better, I'll add in a sound effect or a weird, special effect or something like that, just to or just cut because that's the other thing that's the other thing I realized from LLMs is when you see it, it doesn't know how to be brief about anything, it doesn't understand that brevity is the soul of wit, that, like, a joke is not even a lot of times the words that you use. I mean, sometimes it is, but it's really where you cut the joke. It's when you stop talking. That's where the joke is.
It's the insinuation behind it.
Yeah, so timing is so much a part of it, and just the LLMs just don't get that. They don't understand timing. How could they? So, a lot of it is editing and making sure the animations look good or funny. There's something that I would be proud of to show off at the end of the day, and we keep getting better and better and better. But yeah, it's so for me, part of the thing that I love about this process is the immediacy of it. I can have an idea about an episode that I want to do, and then a week later, we have an episode. That kind of happened. My favorite episode that I've done so far probably is episode 3, which is called Evil AI Boyfriend. And in a week, we got a whole new character in named Him, who's a heuristic, intelligent mate who's he's an evil AI boyfriend that's constantly upselling things and has microtransactions. Uh, and he just shows up, but it was literally an idea that I had, and then I just talked to my team, like the artists and everything, and we just stood it up, and then had an episode within a week, and I still think it's one of our funniest ones. But at that immediacy where everybody is working on the same thing for a week. I think that's one of the reasons why South Park has remained for so long, like this show that's current and funny, is because they have like 6 days to make the show. So there's this sort of everybody's working on the whole thing and in a really immediate way. And there's so much about that can be really, really funny and an energy to it that you're not going to get in other ways sometimes.
Well, and that's why I'm curious, like, because worked at Adult Swim on some of these shows. How different is the process with this, and how, in terms of manpower, in terms of time, because it sounds like a week-long timeline is maybe standard in those in this sector. Like how, yeah, can you speak
So
more to that?
yeah, so I worked on the games division in Adult Swim, but I also I wrote the bumps. Worked on, I didn't write all of the bumps, obviously, but I did write bumps at the same time. And those are the things that every week, on Adult Swim, it's the black screen with the white text on it, generally the famous that goes back to, 2001 when they first launched Adult Swim. And just writing those, and those would happen over just like a couple of days, and those had a real immediacy to them, and that was always really, really fun. It was cool to write something, submit it on like Wednesday, and then see it on Saturday or Sunday night. Um, Complete, like, just something that you wrote, just see that out there. I also worked on the Adult Swim streams. I had a show called Lunchtime Games where we would just stream and just play games and eat lunch and take weird falls,
What?
kinda like that. And it was something, and, like, me and my co-host, a lot of times we didn't even, Abigail, a lot of times we didn't even really plan other than what game we were gonna play, and then we would just show up, and it would just be bedlam, and there was something really fun about that sort of immediacy to it. Now, a lot of shows take a really long time, Rick and Morty, and it was, like, over 10 years, I think they had maybe 72 episodes, something like that,
Oh, wow.
and that's part of the process, that's part of the, especially for the early seasons, who was involved and, how that process works, and then there's other shows like Smiling Friends, which um, isn't on Adult Swim now. I think they just wrapped up or about to wrap up their season 3, and I think that's gonna be the end of it, unfortunately. And those happen much, much faster, and it has just a different animation style, and they can do things faster.
Mm.
Kinda just depends. It depends on how you wanna do things, how long you've been doing it. South Park they don't have to animate a whole bunch of new things every week. They have animation libraries. Everything those kids can do have been done 1,000 times, and they have entire libraries, and they can just throw that in there. So they can limit their workflow. And a lot of it is designing good workflow.
Yeah.
So this is faster in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways, we were trying to replicate that feeling we had working on stuff at Adult Swim, where there was that immediacy and that creative weirdness that we could pull off sometimes.
And so when you guys are coming together for an episode, it's, it is you, it's like you guys will have a meeting on the direction that the episode is going on and still coordinate throughout the week, but this
Mhm.
thing helps just, I guess, increase the time at which you're able to do this stuff, and
Yeah.
by leveraging stuff that you guys have all created and doing it in a way where everything is still linked to everyone who made it, and that's
Mhm.
really part of this funnel that it does.
Yeah, and just allows us to create in a lot of ways, create really, really fast with sort of like with a small team, and we're not quite there yet as we're building out our capabilities and everything as far as like aesthetics and,
Yeah.
fixing small bugs in our process and everything. Hoping to, be able to rival anything that's like, big and out there. But again, I feel like our stuff feels so much there when you watch one of our things, it feels like humans made it. Like there were people involved,
Mhm.
and there's a certain I mean, sometimes it's truly strange the stuff we come up with because that's just who we are. We can't we can't help that part. But there's a real human element to it that you're not gonna get from watching somebody who stitched together a bunch of Sora videos or something.
Well, and that's like, on one hand, the nerd inside of me is like, man, I want to read through this code. Like, I want to look into the code base. But, I think what's so cool is, if you guys keep on this path of having flipped the script on the approach here, like it will continue to grow, and it will, you guys are just going to keep, as tech does, it will grow more capabilities and become better at the things that it already does. And it will continue to stand out in the world where this is not the norm.
Yeah.
And
And that's what we're hoping is like once if we can get some more adoption on it and get everybody to do that. And I just want this to be like where like, a kid gets a hold of it and is just like, I just want to make some stuff with my friends. And then that becomes the
yeah,
next big like huge thing on the internet or whatever, like, but it's just, it comes from that pureness, like, of just wanting to create something and not having this, like, years long barrier to do so, like, where you can just sit down and work with your friends and make something that speaks to you,
Yeah.
honestly.
Being in the space that I'm in, I have to ask this because this is something that, especially because you guys are leveraging AI, like this is something that I know it's not the colloquial AI, but that's another thing people don't realize. Like AI today, that term has been around for a long time and it hasn't always just been large language models. So like you guys, like please talk to your development team about making the user interfaces accessible. Like
Oh, yes.
it's just because it is an earlier technology. Like if you do it from the start, and I know you guys aren't at the start, but like it becomes much more easier over time, or much easier over time, and more sustainable. And again, it the long run will bring more and more people in and have it getting used in ways that you guys didn't intend it to. But like that always happens with technology, where like it wasn't intended to be an accessibility tool, but people use it for that, which is, but just so that's my soapbox for that. But
Oh, no, and it just yeah, I 100% agree, and, additionally, like, every video game company I've ever worked at, I've always fought for, like, more accessibility options inside of the game and everything like that,
yeah.
without a doubt, 'cause I even personally know how important it is, and yeah, definitely would love that.
Yeah.
I well, actually, there was a game that I wanted to invent, that I had done a design for that unfortunately, never got made. Oh god, why am I having brain freeze? I'm having, brain freeze, uh, I'll look it up
It's
real
from
quick.
that 86 Super Bowl. That's
Um,
it's getting
the,
there.
yeah, from the, yeah, right. Oh, no, not again. Um, oh, why am I having this? No, yes, of course. So dumb. I'm going so dumb. The movie, I wanted to do a design and I actually wrote an entire design doc and I thought this would be the dopest video game of all time. And if anybody who has the rights to this, is listening and wants to give me the rights so I can just make the game, I will absolutely 100% make sure it happens. I wanted to make a game of the movie Tremors. Kevin Bacon horror movie with the worms underground that
Uh-huh.
attack people. But I wanted to have it so that, you could either be playing as the humans, running around and trying to stay alive, or you could play as the gigantic worms, underground, who of course are blind and can only, locate via sound, and that sort of thing. Because the
Yeah.
whole time I was like, "Oh my god, blind gamers are absolutely going to destroy at this game."
They totally would. Like, dude, it is so the idea of your hearing becoming way more sensitive when you lose your sight is so true. Like it's for some of the blind dudes that I know are like freakish with their hearing. So it's it's cool, man. That would be just that'd be so awesome. You guys,
I would love it. I think it was so funny. It's like also just like you get pulled in and you're one of the graboids. That's what those worms are called. I just remember, but like your screen's black. It's just a black screen basically, and then but you're just in there. You can just control. Oh my god! I just think that'd be so sick. Like I think that'd be like the dopest game ever. I
well, and
wanted
with
to do that for so long, for like almost 15 years now.
well, with haptics too, you could get that really.
Oh, without
You
a
could do
doubt.
really cool stuff. And
Yeah, yeah.
good luck getting the rights to that. But
I know.
so
Yes, Kevin Bacon. If anybody knows him.
it sounds like you guys are offering this now, like software as a service kind of model, correct?
At the moment, we're doing everything internally, and we're hoping that's, the direction we would love to move is to be able to make this available for other people to use, from all the way from, like I said, just like a couple of kids who want to work on something to, all the way to studio work.
And that's, I mean, this is DreamKey Engine is what it's called.
Yeah, it's the DreamKey engine. Yeah.
Okay. And how long have you guys been a syndicate now?
We just passed 3 years,
Okay.
about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's like the most fun I've ever had is actually not working for other people.
It makes sense. I mean,
It turns out.
the just the group of guys that you got to put this thing together too is kind of crazy. Like
Yeah.
I don't know like that big names in gaming. So like I didn't recognize names, but when you're saying what these guys were doing, it's like it's kind of wild. Like really, if you lined all your resumes up, that is kind of cartoon. It's like just the breadth of everything is so cool. And God, dude, I'm gonna be just thinking about the tech side of this for it's gonna be eating up my mind for the rest of the day. Thankfully, I'm about to go get strangled at jujitsu for a couple hours.
Nice.
Um, what else? What have I not asked here that I should be asking?
No, I mean, just like if, we're, that's pretty much, I think that's pretty much it. Like, hopefully people, check out our stuff, give us a chance, and check it out. Cause I like, I don't think AI is going away. And
Definitely
that
not.
makes us not want to, like, we don't want to take our hands off the steering wheel and just be like, nah, we're not touching this. Like, I think it's imperative on us to, you know, with the ability to do this, to just sort of like guide it in a way that um, helps people and keeps jobs and keeps creativity human and just makes animators' jobs easier and makes creators' jobs easier.
And this again, this needs to happen in other fields. And
I agree. I
it
agree.
yeah, and I'm sure if it probably is already, right? Like
Mhm.
I would there's got to be some other people who have the same an awareness that like, hey, we need to do something about this before it gets too far along. And specifically, like you guys did do it from an unconventional angle,
Yeah.
which sounds kind of crazy to say unconventional because LLMs have only been around for a couple of years, but this, yeah, it just
Yeah.
so
People who
important.
people have to solve the problems with like sort of like just try to be workarounds and ingenuity and using yes, spit and duct tape, and just making it find a way rather than just sort of brute forcing things with a lot of money to happen the fastest. Like really be thoughtful about how things are done.
Yeah, just so cool, man. Where could people find DreamKey and everything else that you want to point them towards?
Yeah, so if we have a website, DreamKey.ai, we have our manifesto of how we make things on there that Bisa can lead through. We decided to call it a manifesto because everything's radder if you call it a manifesto.
True.
But then if anybody wants to check out our stuff, and we would love it if you did, we're VCTV 9000 on YouTube. And we have a lot of our shows on there. And all the closed captioning I've done by hand myself, just to ensure accuracy. Because guess what? AI is not very good at that. It is not very good at that at all. Yeah, all of our episodes of Angry Shaman are on there. We have a few more shows in production that we're hoping to launch over the next couple of months. Yeah, I hope everybody comes and checks us out and leaves a nice comment, give us a little like there, maybe a subscribe. The normal stuff that gets you in the algorithm, and maybe we can make this thing happen.
Yeah, maybe they can do that right after they subscribe and like Going in Blind with Zach Tidwell and leave a
That's the first
review
one.
wherever you're listening. No, uh,
Also, hit the
ju-
notification bell. Seriously, hit the notification bell.
if you want to buy me a coffee, you find the link in the description below. No, I don't know what else. So I please don't be. I don't have a link for that in my in these show notes, but yeah, man, just thank you again for coming on. And this is again just I was really blown away by this. All of it, just all the things that I've already said. I think this is really important stuff. And thanks for taking the time.
Oh, thank you for having me on. This has been a real pleasure. Like I said, I'm always like, in the email when we were emailing back and forth at the beginning. I was like, I'm always just so excited to talk to other people who've gone through like brain injury and stuff like that. Like we are a very particular breed, and it's always a pleasure. And seriously, thank you so much for having me on here, man.
Yeah, I was. I didn't know how long we'd end up talking about that. So like, I was planning on talking to you more about like working at some of the big companies. I was like, we got to get into the meat of this. And so this was, but I love these tangential conversations. Like that
Oh yeah.
is what I'm going for. Is just getting to know people. So this was great, man. And please stay in touch. But
Oh, same here.
all
Yeah,
right,
let me know.
okay, cool. Well, thanks everyone at home for listening to another episode of Going In Blind. I've had a couple founders in this space now and co-founders just of really people who are using, again, I'm overusing the word AI now because it's the colloquial term, but that are leveraging artificial intelligence in different ways outside of the norm, outside of the LLMs, in ways that are increasing our abilities to do things, as opposed to, again, diminishing our relevance in the world. And I think it's so important. Go back and listen to my episode with Steve Biggery, as recent. Another one with Adam Chire has worked on some of these fundamental technologies. And I think those are the two real big recent ones. But other than that, I just thanks for coming. I will see you again next week. All right.